Welcome to those of you who are joining us today, and for those of you who are watching on a replay. My name is Adam Petrikoff. I'm the managing partner of VR Business Brokers and Mergers and Acquisitions here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Super excited to have a friend and colleague, Tom Bixby of Level Management Partners, joining me today. Tom, I want to give you a chance to give an introduction here. So if you want to tell a little bit about yourself, we will get this started as I get the PowerPoint here working and operational. A little technical difficulty, but Tom, you want to tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am in my fourth decade of professional work. I've had a background in banking and technology. That's been finance and technology has been principally my key roles over my career. But I've had a lot of technology leadership as well as a bunch of management consulting work starting around the year 2000 when I started really heavy into consulting work. But I founded a couple of companies, Level Management Partners in 2005, and a technology company that provides support to management consulting in 2007. That's Evalusis. And something I'm really proud of, co-founded XPX Charlotte with Adam Petrikoff in 2021.
Great. And I should have made an announcement at the beginning here, so let me go back. I just want to make a disclaimer. I mean, everything we're talking about is educational. Tom and I are huge believers in the more educated business owners are and business advisors are, the better outcomes business owners will have, and we'll talk about that. But these concepts apply to the small business, to the $100 million business, and everything in between. So I just want to get that disclaimer out here. Okay, so Tom, what is XPX? Tell me in a few words, what is XPX and why was it so critical in your mind that you and I got together to bring this to Charlotte?
Well, XPX is a nonprofit organization here in Charlotte. It's part of a larger group called XPX Global that was founded probably 12, 15 years ago in the Boston area. But it is kind of unique in the exit planning space because it's solely a group of advisors gathering together to educate one another in order to be able to help produce better outcomes for their clients who are approaching and processing through an exit. So you can see on that slide, our mission is to vastly improve exit outcomes for business owners. But our strategy to be able to do that is to basically educate each other, all of the professionals who have some role in helping businesses achieve a better outcome. It's important that we all educate each other on what the larger exit planning process looks like and what our roles individually are and how we can collaborate more effectively in order to be able to achieve better outcomes for our clients.
So Tom, you're talking about CPAs, wealth advisors, attorneys, insurance professionals, all the various advisors and many more, estate attorneys, investment bankers, business brokers, management consultants, all the different people that a business owner may consult with at various times in the duration of owning a business. Okay, so
exactly.
So this is a unique approach, going after advisors, not necessarily business owners, to ultimately help business owners, but through the professional advisors. So let's talk about the life cycle of a business owner. They wake up one day, they have a great idea, or they get let go from a big organization, they have an idea, and now they're finally forced to, hey, I'm going to go do this. Let's talk about the life cycle. And you and I fit in different places here, various advisors fit in different places here, but talk a little bit about what we're looking at in front of us here.
Sure. That first part, early personal planning and wealth protection, that's really where the wealth managers are front and center because it's all about helping a business owner to understand what their future goals are. And that's vitally important. The other key there is also getting a valuation of your business, because it's all about being able to match the two. What is the value of a business? How much do you need to receive from the sale of that business to fund your post-exit lifestyle? And how does that match up with what your needs are? If you're going to live modestly after you retire, maybe you don't need a whole lot of money, but very, very frequently you find that there's a gap there, that the business is not worth enough to be able to achieve the financial security that you're looking for. So it's very important that we learn that early on. So that way we have an opportunity to do some business value growth if that's needed, because that takes a while to be able to do a good job with business value growth. There's a lot of things that can be done there if there's time permitting. We'll talk a little bit about that later in the program here. You get into the nearing exit and the exit stage, and that's really where you start to play a key role, right, Adam?
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
and so what I would just add to that, Tom, is, this sounds really, obvious, but I'm going to state it. The worst call I get from someone is, I need to sell right now. Because I know they probably haven't spent the time in the prior sections of this of really planning. Ideally, you should be planning 2, 3, 4, 5 years out. Many people think you should be planning your exit the day you start your business. But as Tom said, and we're talking to some of these things you need to be working on, these things take time. These are not weeks or even months. These take years. And so it's really important that when you're nearing an exit and ultimately have an exit, that you are putting yourself and your family and your business in a position to enjoy the post-exit phase. Which brings me to my next slide here, Tom. And for people who don't know this, or aren't aware, 75%, the data says about 75% of an owner's net worth is typically tied up in their business. Most owners, 75%, are not satisfied after exiting their business for a variety of reasons, and that's a whole different webinar. And 75% of businesses don't sell, and the real answer is they don't sell at the price that either the owner thinks it should, or they don't have enough to live because they haven't properly planned. So we call this the, sort of the rule of 75%. So these are daunting numbers that a business owner really can have more control over if they start thinking and planning about the business and exiting. Tom, anything you want to add to this?
The only thing I'll add to it is that this slide really encapsulates the reason why you and I, back in 2019, said we needed to do something to affect this. So this is the slide that started XPX Charlotte, in my
Put
opinion.
another way is, we see business owners not maximizing the asset value of their businesses because they're not thinking through strategically and long term in terms of planning and working with professional advisors to put themselves in a position to maximize their sale. I say this all the time. You get one chance to sell your business. You want to do it optimally, and doing it optimally takes time, professional advisors, strategic effort, and time. So let's move on. You want to address, you started to address some of these earlier. Do you need, how much money do you need? How much is it going to be? You get a valuation, and do you have the time? You want to dig a little deeper here, Tom?
Sure. I mean, we did cover some of this, but it's very, very important that you understand if there's a value gap there, because that's when you need to take action. And the sooner you can start to realize that, the sooner you'll have time to grow the business. And as we talked about, that can take years and not months. So I keep on hearing that most business owners wind up thinking about their exit about the time that they walk into your office, Adam. And really, it needs to be 5 to 10 years out in order to be able to give themselves the runway that they might need in order to be able to do all the things that will prepare their business optimally. Yeah,
and so we have some wealth advisors on this webinar today, and start, if you're not working with someone, you need to sit down and understand exactly number two. What are your post-exit needs? What people tell me all the time is, I need X millions of dollars to sell this business. That's not the question to ask. The question is, what do you need to live your life post-exit? So you need to work with a professional advisor, a financial advisor, a wealth advisor, to really sit down and look at your existing assets and what your risk tolerance is for the next 5, 10, 15 years. Is there extra income coming in? So many people are so focused on just, I need to sell this for X, but they're not thinking of the big picture. And so we really are sort of obsessed to make sure that you're talking with the professional wealth advisors to make sure you're thinking of your post life after your business. Because if you don't have the right number based on your plan, you're never going to be able to retire comfortably or to not have to get a second or third opportunity after this. So
the only thing
as we
I'll
go into
also mention,
yeah, please.
the only thing I'll also mention is that what I keep on hearing is that the biggest challenge for business owners is that they're so absorbed in their company that they don't have a really good, clear vision as to what they will do with themselves after they leave their business. So that's so important, to be able to think about what the lifestyle is going to be after you leave your business, and to do that in a reasonable fashion. The normal is, yeah, I'm going to be golfing 5 days a week, or I'm going to be doing something like that. But in reality, very few people find that's their lifestyle after they leave their business. So you need to really understand what that's going to be. Do some quality introspection with your family to figure out what that life's going to look like. What are the funds that we need in order to be able to make that happen in the way that we want? Because that's all the inputs that are going to be required for a wealth planner to help you understand, is the value coming out of your business going to be enough in order to be able to make that lifestyle a reality for you?
So speaking of family, I do this every month, and you would think I would remember to always ask people up front to submit questions. But a good friend and colleague and professional advisor, friend of mine, has asked the following question, and I'll read it now. So please continue to ask any Q&A, put them in the Q&A chat box, and we'll answer them live here. The question is as follows: is the rule of 75% applicable to people who've sold out to family members, children, ESOPs, et cetera? Is it mainly for those businesses sold to totally outside buyers? I'll take a shot at that, and Tom, you want to follow up after. I think the 75% could apply both to an internal sale, a family sale, or an external sale. There are different scenarios with a family involved. There's different tax scenarios. There's different gifting mechanisms. There's different things that are available with family and with long-term planning and estate. But if I can answer your question, are they disappointed by selling to a family member as opposed to outside? I think the answer is there's disappointment both ways. There's disappointment that maybe the next generation isn't running the business the same way that the prior generation, but that disappointment can also be just as relevant for an outside buyer. Anything you want to add to that, Tom?
I think you covered it. The only thing might be that all those kind of issues can be addressed if we do that early planning. Because let's say you're selling to your family. Are those family members really well prepared to be able to step into your shoes and to be able to run the business effectively? Because if you leave the business and they're not really prepared, things are going to get a little rocky for a while, and that could certainly make you uncomfortable, wondering if you made the right decision. So there's a whole number of reasons why that rule of 75s could happen. But it's all about being very satisfied and comfortable with your decision and the outcome after exit.
Agree. And siblings, some may be in the business, some may not be in the business, some may be. So there's family relationships, and there are just a variety of what I call social issues that need to be addressed long term. It's hard to do it 2 weeks before you go to market. We got another question. We got an active audience today, so thank you. Please continue to bring it. We're asked to talk about different types of exits for an outside buyer, whether it's a cash out, an earn out, a merger. How should a business owner be looking at the different scenarios on which they may be receiving, all cash at front or over time to minimize taxes, take a seller note, there's an earnout. Any thoughts on that, Tom?
Well, this is where it's great to bring that whole network of experts to the table, because each of those experts is going to have a different perspective on the options. There are some key specialties involved in helping to identify what are the best exit options for you. You see a lot of them, Adam, but there's ESOPs, and that's a real specialty. So when we sit down with a business owner, we want to review all of those options, and this is where we'll be bringing a team together to help make sure that we've uncovered all the various solutions that could optimize for that business owner.
And you said exactly what I would say, Tom, is, Tom really focuses, as we talked about in the value growth section, I really focus on helping people exit optimally. But I work with wealth advisors, I work with tax accountants, I work with CPAs. These are, you need these professionals because they really can impact what type of deal that maybe you should be seeking. Your CPA may say, you know what? Taking seller financing over 5 years at 6 or 7% interest is really smart for you. And the seller may look back at the CPA and say, really? And he says, yeah, or she says, yeah. So that can open up the type of buyers you can accept, because that is advantageous to your plan that you've worked with your wealth advisor and your CPA and your tax accountant all about prior to selling. People ask us, well, where does value come from? And this is an entire webinar we're going to summarize in one slide here, but essentially what a buyer of your business is buying is the cash flow that is coming out of that business. And the likelihood and expectation that that cash flow is going to continue. If I'm going to buy the ABC company, I need to know how much cash is coming out of it, and can I get a return on my investment? Can I support my debt level? And can I take out a working salary that I can live off of? Those are the three things that are so vital. So adjusted EBITDA is one metric. So we determine how much money is going through there, that you, the owner, has discretion over how that money is spent. And then we do research on what your industry trades for, the multiples. And multiples are just a function of quality of the earnings, and also how much risk. The higher multiple someone is willing to pay, the lower risk, and the lower multiple, the higher risk. So, buyers out there understand this, and it's really important that sellers and business owners start to understand this language, because you're going to get involved in this. And yet, again, you should rely on your outside advisors, but being educated, again, is the most important. And so you put the adjusted EBITDA and the multiple together, and ultimately that's how we're going to get to our value equation. Okay, let's keep moving here, Tom. So let's talk about growing your business to ultimately grow the value. And these next few slides are really what Tom, in his expertise and experience, is really, really good at, working with business owners who are looking 3 to 5 years out and say, okay, my business is worth X today, but I want it to be worth 2X in 5 years so I can execute my plan. My spouse and I can go live in Florida or the Caribbean or in Asheville or wherever you want. And so this is what Tom is really an expert in. So Tom, take it away here. I want you to start talking about some of these key challenges.
Absolutely. Thanks, Adam. So one of the first things we need to figure out when we're looking at a growth plan is, what are the various options to grow the value of that business? And the options are almost, there's an infinite number of options that are available to you. And many of the same things that you've probably, as a business owner, been working on but there are undoubtedly some things that you may have missed as a business owner that when we bring our team together to identify where the value growth opportunities are, we'll find some new things that you hadn't considered yet. So defining what are those growth options and being able to set priorities in a rational manner to determine which are the ones that are going to move the needle in terms of value and what is the investment required in order to be able to make that, and to be able to look at things like return on investment in order to be able to establish your 3 to 5 year growth plan. So there's a lot of things involved there. The third bullet there, managing change. The one thing that I can tell you with absolute certainty is you're not going to grow your business without changing. And so we also don't want to cause the wheels to come off on your company. We want you to, you need to respect the fact that you have a company to run, and you need to continue to be mindful of making that work while we're making changes in the business to grow that value. So managing changes is a very important part of the process.
Great point. And one of the things that you may realize, hey, I need to add certain staff. This is where we're weak, but in order to go from X to Y over the next 3 to 5 years, you may need to bring in new people. You may need to look at your current team and realize, hey, if we're going to double in the next 5 years, are the people in those positions today able to grow and manage at a different level? As you grow, maybe you outperform some of their, or outgrow some of their skill sets. So managing change is hugely important. Let's talk a little bit about investments and how you're growing going forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can consider. Should you go into new markets? Are there new products or services that you should be offering in order to be able to continue to grow? This gets back to, there are some risks involved in having a concentration in very few products and very few markets. So that will affect the multiple that a buyer would be willing to pay. Should you be considering a strategic acquisition? Maybe you have a customer concentration problem, which is very common and very difficult for buyers to accept. Which is the case, in case you don't understand what that means, it's maybe if you have 80% of your profit and your cash flow resulting from 10% or 20% of your customers. So that way, if for some reason the business transfers and there was a loyalty deal with one of those customers, they were tied to the business owner and they decide that's a good time to look for different options, that could be a huge amount of cash flow leaving that business. Then a buyer will realize that and be very concerned about it, and they're going to discount the opportunity as a consequence of that risk. Human capital, I think we may have talked about that a little bit earlier. Do you need to bring some new management talent in order to be able to allow you as the business owner to step back from the day-to-day operation of the company? Because the strength of that management team is going to be another key factor that a buyer will be looking at. Do you need to improve the systems and processes of the company? Because that has a big effect on the stability of operating the company into the future. Will the workforce continue to produce the widgets? Will they produce the services in a quality fashion? Is everything systematized? Do you have the information you need as a management team through technology to be able to run the business effectively? So there's a whole host of growth investments that you might want to consider that will have a significant effect if done properly in the value of your business.
Yeah, I'll give a great example on your last one. We had a buyer go into a business, and we had a buyer seller meeting, and we were in their conference room after hours, so no one else would know about the business being for sale. And the buyer pulled up on the project, on a presentation on the wall, and it showed their forecasts, all their spreadsheets, their CRMs. The buyer looked at me and just said, okay, these guys got their act together. he said it in front of the sellers. So having your process and your systems really working and clicking and easily identifiable and something to be shared is extremely valuable. You know, I always tell people, buyers love to read everything about a business, but boy, when you can show them something, that's when you create all the leverage, and they melt, and they are not as, it's much harder for them to you know, argue over price when you're showing them things that are going to help them be successful, because those are the things that have helped you be successful. So let's move on here. Setting priorities for various initiatives. Obviously, you got to figure out what's right and what's next. So talk a little bit about this slide, Tom.
Yeah, one of the things we do in our analysis when we're looking at a growth plan is we line up all of the different value creation actions that we've been able to identify coming out of marketing, coming out of sales, coming out of human capital, coming out of operations and technology. There's just a lot of options that are going to float into the bucket for us to consider. But the challenge for a business owner is going to be, how do we rationally determine which of these to work on and in what order? So what we like to do is to create some metrics that will support that. So when we do a value growth architecture, what we call a value growth architecture, we're going to be able to identify what is the value growth ROI? What is your return on investment coming from action on a particular initiative, and use those kind of metrics in order to be able to create that prioritized action plan. So there's a number of different variants of that. Value ROI is one of the keys, but cash ROI could be very, very important. Based upon your cash flow position, you may want to begin your value growth program with some actions that are going to drive new cash flow into the business. And that'll give you some cushion to be able to afford some of the changes that are going to be vital to mitigating risk, but are not going to add new cash early. So it's important for many business owners to do some of those marketing and sales initiatives up front. That'll give you some additional cash flow cushion that you can then apply to improving your management team, investing in software and technology, improving your business processes, and all the other things that would be particularly attractive to a company.
That's great. Tom, before we proceed to the next slide, we got another question from someone out here, and it says as follows. I've owned my business in Charlotte for over 10 years. We're in the service business, and we continue to grow every year, year over year. We are benefiting from the growth of Charlotte population. Question, is this a bad strategy to continue to rely on the growth, i.e. the market size growing in Charlotte as a growth strategy when we are predicted to possibly double over the next 20 to 25 years? Tom, you want to tackle that one?
Well, it's always good to get growth, and that's, you know, congratulations for being able to tap into the growth that we've had here in Charlotte. But, you know, it's not unlikely that you're going to get competition coming in. And so your market could look very different in the coming years. So being able to defend against that and to be able to continue to innovate could be very important. So
that's great. It's a great answer. Just because you're doing well today doesn't mean that someone from another market isn't going to come here and potentially be able to steal your business. So, you know, I always tell people, continue to go on offense for sure. Okay. So if this slide will move here. Oh, there we go. So we talked about change, and change is a funny 5-6 letter word. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters. So everyone manages change differently. But Tom, with your experience, talk a little bit about how you can manage change without, you know, disrupting the ongoing business.
Well, one of the things I've seen in every one of our clients is that the leadership team, in particular the CEO, the owner of the business, they don't have a whole lot of extra time on their hands. And what they may not fully grasp is the amount of focus that you need to apply in order to be able to introduce the kind of changes that will drive value growth in your business. So I think I mentioned earlier, it's important that we respect the amount of time you need to spend to keep the business moving while we're making those changes. So it's, you know, it's kind of like changing the tires in an airplane in flight, right? You need to continue to satisfy your existing customers, to do everything you do in order to be able to move the business forward. But then there's a whole nother work stream that will begin to take shape. So you need to have the leadership talent that can lead those initiatives. And sometimes your companies don't have those leaders. So you might be able to tap some outside resources in order to be able to make up that bandwidth. It's important to minimize distraction in your current business and also minimize distractions to the people that are trying to reshape the company in order to get that value to occur. There's a great deal of project management discipline that's involved, as well as change management discipline, which are really different concepts. Yeah. A lot of what managing change involves is effective communication. So it's vital that you make sure that everyone throughout your organization understands what is going to happen to them, because many changes are going to filter through the entire organization. What's going to happen, why you're doing it, why it's important for them to be a part of the design and implementation of the new business after these changes have occurred. So managing change is vital.
So Tom, we've talked about a lot of things over the last 4 slides. I mean, none of this is easy. None of this is, you know, a lot of this is not being done. It's part of the reason why you and I helped found XPX, to really try to improve outcomes of owners. But let's take the positive approach. Let's talk about, you know, the benefits of why. Well, before we do that, let's talk about time and managing time. And, you know, one of the things that we know as we both talk to owners so much is some of them are so stuck on working in the business that they're not working on the business. They're not handling the strategic things that need to be addressed. They're not thinking. When I say, oh, you should be working 3 years out, they look at me like, Adam, I'm working 3 hours out. Like, I can't think of 3 months from now, let alone 3 years from now. I got so much going on. We've had a crazy last couple of years. I can't get past tomorrow. So we respect and understand that time is your most valuable asset. But what we're trying to impart upon the business owners that are watching this is that the value, the growth of your company will be tremendous in terms of value if you are spending the time and energy and resources and strategic intellect to do this for the future so you can benefit. So Tom, I know I sort of took some of this here, but I'm so passionate about it. That's why you and I started this group. Like I said, the worst call I get is, I need to sell now. I know they haven't had the chance to do that. They're not going to get maximum value. They're going to be one of the 75% that's not happy with the outcome. So anything else you want to add here about time?
Yeah, maybe you and I can reflect on a slide that we didn't include in this deck that we use in our presentations that we do to business owners, and that very, very frequently business owners are going to leave their company before they think they're going to. So you may be, as a business owner, you might be thinking, well, you know, I'm 60 years old. I want to continue to do this until I'm 70, maybe 75, or I'm 55. I want to do it until I'm 65. But over and over again, you'll find that life will happen, and something will happen in your world that could require you to have to leave that business early. You could get hit by a truck is the common words, but you know, all kinds of things, health issues could crop up, or you could just go through a period of 2 years with a pandemic and just be so burnt out as a consequence of having to try to keep your business together over that 2 years that you're just burnt out. And then you'll want to leave. And then you're going to be coming knocking on Adam's door. And Adam's going to say, you know, you may not be ready. There's a lot of things here that are going to affect the value. And a buyer's going to come in there. And, you know, there's a lot of things that you should have been working on 5 years ago that are going to cost you. So did I cover that well, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's about, you know, you're de-risking the company. You're making it more attractive by working on these strategic initiatives over years so that it's more attractive. I mean, when a buyer buys a business, they're not just buying cash flow, they're not just buying customers, they're not just making either a strategic or an individual asset, but they're managing risk on their side. And so they're willing to pay more if there's less risk. And so the more you can address this, the more it makes it attractive. So Tom's 100% right. We're talking with a lot of tired business owners right now. And, you know, the last thing on anyone's mind 60 days ago was dealing with the challenges that are now going on, the war that is now going on in Ukraine. And this, it's another thing. So it's impacting oil, it's impacting supply chain issues. It's, you know, we were just getting used to managing all the stuff with COVID, and yes, business owners are tired. So Tom is right. You know, people get sick, people wake up and, you know, there's a family issue or they have a partnership issue, or all of a sudden they lose a customer and it was 25% of their customer and their cash flow changes. The more you address these issues, the more valuable your business is. But also, I always tell people, put on your buyer hat. And by addressing these issues over years and not weeks and months, you're actually making it more attractive to a buyer because you are de-risking, you are making it more attractive for them to come in and buy and to pay more. So let's talk, last slide here. You know, we're throwing a lot out here, as I was starting to say a minute ago, but talk about all the benefits of really doing this strategically and well before you're forced to, or you get sick, or you need to, or you lose a customer.
Yeah, this isn't a complete list of the things that make a particularly attractive business, but these are a bunch of the key ones. But that sort of punchline at the top in yellow is something I want to make sure that everyone understands, that in reality, the things that are going to make your business look more attractive to an investor, to a buyer, are things that are going to make your company so much easier to run. So one of the things that is not uncommon with level management clients is we start to make some of these changes, some of the frustration that they're feeling in running their company on a day-to-day basis start to alleviate. And so the company begins to be a lot more fun to operate, and maybe they don't want to sell it anymore. That's actually happened with some of our clients in the past, is where we address some of these issues that are real friction points in their business and cause them to pull their hair out every day. They don't want to even come into the office anymore because it's just frustrating. We solve some of those problems, and then all of a sudden the company, the future prospects of the business look bright and maybe greater than they thought. Their cash flow is strong, their people are happy, they've got satisfied customers, and everything's wonderful. And so those are the kind of things that we're going to want to do in preparing a business for a successful exit to maximize the value. And the earlier we can start getting those things to happen for a business, the happier they're going to be, both before the transaction and afterwards.
Well, we're about at the Q&A stage here. That's the next slide. So I do have one more question here, and I'm actually going to ask this question here, which is, how do I begin? Everything you talked about resonates with me. How do I begin to plan to address some of these issues? I don't know where to start. Tom?
Well, great question. It's probably the most common question. I think just reaching out to someone like Adam or myself would be a great place. We're always happy to have those conversations and kind of give you some ideas as to where we might begin. But as we talked about early, make sure you have a really qualified wealth planner and you spend that quality time thinking about how long you want to own this business and what your life is going to be after you leave that business. And make sure your wealth plan is really solid and you know what the business is going to need to contribute to that financial plan going forward. So it never hurts to visit your wealth planner and have those conversations. If you need support, if you need some additional ideas, I'm always here to talk to business owners, and we just love the opportunity, Adam and I, to get out in front of business owners and groups to tell the story and provide some advice.
Yeah, and here's Tom's contact information. Obviously, everyone should have my contact information. I'm going to pull this down here for a second and end with the following statement. The reason why Tom and I feel so strongly about what we founded in XPX and what Tom does and what I do is we're so passionate about educating business owners out there about how they can improve their outcome. And one of the things that is really great about the advisor community is, and business owners need to understand this, is that if I don't have the answer, or Tom doesn't have the answer, or your wealth advisor doesn't have the answer, or your CPA doesn't have the answer, they have tremendous networks. And I can't impress upon business owners who are watching this to rely on your advisors, rely on your wealth manager. They can help you with the roadmap. They may have some suggestions for a business broker and investment banker to help you. They may have some tax accountants, specialists that can help you on exit. Do not think that you are in this alone. And so that's really why Tom and I are just so passionate about elevating the advisor community's level of education. I'm not saying Tom doesn't know everything about what he does. I know he's an expert, just like he feels like I'm an expert. But the more I know about what he does, I can help the clients when they come to me and say, I want to sell for X, but it's only worth Y. I can send them to people like Tom and others in the community that can help them work on things. So it's really important to work with trusted advisors. If you don't feel comfortable calling your existing CPA or wealth advisor or accountant or attorney or your insurance professional or your management, consultant, and you're multiple years out, find those trusted advisors, make a change, do what you've got to do, reach out to people that you know and trust, reach out to people that have done this before, because there's a tremendous community of people that want to help you. And of course, people want to make money along the way, but if we're helping you and they're making money, everyone wins. We're putting you in a better position to ultimately have an optimal exit when the time is right and more on your terms. So I'm sorry to sort of end on that, Tom. I feel so passionate about making sure that people are reaching out to the advisor community because we really can help. You do not need to go about this alone. Anything to close, Tom?
Well, the only thing I'll do is say thanks for the opportunity to be on here. And also, hopefully we've had some business owners listening to this program, but there's probably going to be some other advisors in the Charlotte area that are listening to this. If you're not already a member of XPX, you should think about becoming a member and just go to xpxcharlotte.com. You'll see about our current collection of folks. We have, I think, 41 people in our group. We're growing like crazy, and love to have to attract an additional group of folks that we can help to educate on the exit planning process and what their role could be in helping achieve better outcomes for businesses.
That's great. Well, as always, Tom, you and I talk every week about all kinds of things, and this is a topic we could have for 2 hours here, but we really appreciate your time and your knowledge and your experience And if anyone has any questions for either of us, please feel free to reach out to us. Tom, thank you very much. Really enjoyed it. And to our attendees or those who are watching this in the future, really appreciate your time and energy. Thank you very much.